YouTube, Rook here from Rook Geek Goodness, my little channel web for all things geeky and cool, and welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back to a brand new Funko review. This particular item we're talking about, I went over it in a bit of detail on a recent stream, and of course it's the Retro Toys Funko Transformer inspired Jetfire Pop. This guy right here, which is a Funko Shop exclusive. And there's a lot to really unpack about this guy. I've seen a lot of people review specifically Jetfire, and he really talked about the pop itself, not really about the history, what this character is all about. And I want to do kind of a deep dive, but I don't want to go too deep down this rabbit hole because there's a lot of information what's happened with the Jetfire character off the Transformers brand. So I want to keep it very, very easy. I have my notes here. I wrote them all down. I went back and forth on how I'm going to really talk about this because I can confuse a lot of people very, very quickly. So I'm going to try to give you the Cliff Notes version of Jetfire here. So we have to go back in time now to about 1982, 1983 in Japan with a manga or anime known as Super Dimensional Fortress Macross. So it's a very, very popular show in Japan, which really consisted of convertible jets. They would turn from, let's say, a jet plane into a robot and back. They had a middle ground where they could have sort of a half jet, and that's a very, very cool transformation. So basically it's a triple changer. Think of it that way. It was owned by a company in Japan called Tatsunoko. They owned the rights to the Macross property. They then sold the rights in 82, 83, about 80, I think it was 80, end of 83, 84, to an American company called Harmony Gold, who still own the rights to this day, to produce a show in America called Robotech. You may or may not know about it. It was a show that ran about 85 episodes. That's what you have to go into syndication. There were two other anime shows which they were linked to Robotech, but that's a discussion for another video. All you have to figure out here is that further on in 1985, moving forward a few years, the company of Hasbro and Tatsunoko wanted to make a Transformer based on the main character or main jet plane or robot they had in the Macross, now Robotech show, called Skull Eater. This guy right here. Take note of the paint job for Skull Eater. That was the main plane powered by one of the main characters. So they wanted to make a Transformer based on that. Hasbro had a discussion with Tatsunoko and bought the rights so they can do this, to make this plane, but we're told in conversations that make sure you change the color. We got, of course, this guy right here, the 1985 Jetfire. We well known, love this character, the G1 version of Jetfire. Now there's some gray area when looking back and forth. Was this kind of breaking copyright what Harmony Gold now has? I don't really know. I looked, I couldn't find any other documentation. I'm assuming there was problems because going forward in the future, you never really saw the particular Jetfire looking the same way again, which leads me to believe there was probably litigation happened between Hasbro and Harmony Gold. Harmony Gold was extremely sue happy and they gotten tons of litigations with their property. They sued everybody. They sued anyone that basically converted from a plane to a robot that looked like one of their guys. Battletech got sued up and down. So that was one of the very, very weird reasons that happened. Fast forward a little bit forward to, according to my notes here, to 2013, there was a combination pack that came out. It was, I think, a San Diego Comic-Con or New York Comic-Con convention exclusive featuring both G.I. Joe versus Transformers. Now, from the, I guess you would say from the G.I. Joe side, they decided to take the color schemes of the Jetfire character, which is this guy right here, and make it for the Sky Striker, including the paint apps and the armor pack that goes on the back of the character itself. Harmony Gold decided to sue, crazily, Hasbro and demanded to recall anything that was sold. They wanted damages for the property, for their intellectual property, and brought them to court. Just so you know kind of what happened with this fallout, they, again, went to court over this. They were told by the judges there this is going to be dropped. You each handle your own lawsuit, your own lawyer fees. And it was it was thrown out basically with prejudice. That basically means that you cannot no longer sue Hasbro against this particular piece. Which brings us back to Funko here. And what I think is very, very weird, where they circumvented this whole litigation issue that Harmony Gold is known to sue companies. I don't know how they dodged this particular bullet. Maybe because of the way he looks, the size, the scale, maybe because he cannot transform. Maybe that's how Funko got away with this. I'm not entirely sure. What this whole big deal is with Harmony Gold suing everybody based on the likeness to Robotech characters, otherwise known as, in this case, Valkyries or Jetfire, the character we're looking at right here. So what we're going to do is go a full breakdown of this guy. We're looking at packaging as a whole. We look at paint, articulation, including final thoughts for you, the viewer. Should you spend the money? and pick up the Retro Toys Pop number 35 Jetfire. Stay tuned, guys. We're going to a breakdown. All right, guys, we're in a breakdown segment looking at the Pop Retro Toys number 35, part of the Transformers line Jetfire Pop. And the very first thing we do in a breakdown segment is look at the packaging and presentation. There's a little bit different sort of pop because this is what they call the Retro Pop toy line right here. Think of it as a throwback or an homage to the old retro toys, your vintage toys that came out years ago, things like Mr. Potato Head, just to name one particular item. Transformers is kind of grouped into this as well. So a little bit different packaging. Let's kind of break down the packaging as a whole. Of course, at the top I mentioned we have the Pop Retro Toys. The Transformers logo here, which is homage to the original 83 Transformers logo, what they had here. It looks very, very cool. Number 35, as I mentioned before. A nice window box display shot of right here. Of course, the window box of Jetfire himself. The all-important Funko shop. Take note of that sticker here. You can only get this guy online, and he sold out in approximately 2 to 3 minutes. I was quick on the trigger, quick on the draw to get him as soon as I possibly could when it went live. Very happy to get Jetfire added to my collection. Of course, bottom right here does say Jetfire. Over here is a nice shot of what it looks like when you pull him out of packaging. Over here we have the Jetfire number 35. And the back of the card is very, very cool because think of it as an old school homage again to the old G1 Transformers. You have the Retro Pop right there. Up there is a nice shot of, I believe it's Starscream? Yeah, it's Starscream right there, and Prime, which if you would take a Transformer from the old 80s and flip it over, you would always see Prime and Starscream, originally from the G1 line, always on the back of the card. I like the back packaging here because you have, of course, Jetfire and the characters that would be available in that particular wave. And again, it looks like the old cards of the Transformers. When you turn the cards over, the characters over, you see this sort of black and red, at least for the Transformers from the Autobot version, this sort of red and gold starburst effect, which would be, you're looking at the good guy as opposed to being the bad guy. But the packaging as a whole looks very, very good. I want to give it a little 360 here so you can see what it looks like in, 360. It looks very, very good. I'm very happy with this particular packaging. The Retro Toys is a little bit something new to me. I don't think a whole lot of retro toys, but I'm very happy to add Jetfire to my collection. Looks really, really good. I think Funko did definitely a great job, spot on, when it comes to this design. It looks very, very good. With that being said, let's get them out of packaging and continue the breakdown segment. Alright guys, we have our Jetfire Pop out of packaging. And the next step in the breakdown, we take a pop out of packaging, is we look at the paint and articulation. But before I go that road, let's talk about Jetfire here just on the outskirts. Basically what Funko did is it took the 1985 version of the G1 Jetfire, the action figure, and basically scaled it down smaller, put a big old head on it, made it out of vinyl of course, and they made Jetfire here. There's one note I want to make a notation of here, is that I didn't know at first until I took him out of package, he does have a figure stand. I didn't notice that at first, and mainly I think that he has a figure stand because the legs are splayed wide like this. They're often an angle, they're not straight like this. So that's why he has a figure stand. He might be a little cockeyed, maybe a little heat from a blow dryer might push him a little bit further to make him straight. But let's look at the paint first of this guy. He looks really, really good. Of course, he's spouting the white and red deco. He does have a gun pod, which is what this gun is called right here. This was, of course, Jetfire's gun, his sidearm, or his weapon, rather, in Transformers. But the Macross Valkyries had what was called a gun pod. In the cartoons, he would, and the toy would come with a clip where he can wear this under his arm here based on, these are guns also. This is guns and armor, what these are. I don't know if you can really see it, but there's little black lines right here. These are normally 2 guns under each one of these red shells, these red shields. This is basically armor. Think of it as armor. And he has armor on the legs as well, this red and black portion. He does not sport the conventional booster pack, which would clip onto the back of this right here, this white section, which is basically a panel that has been folded up where there would be stabilizer wings for his jet mode. Speaking of his jet mode, I have not yet mentioned that the Transformer and the Valkyries for Robotech, they would transform from a F-14 Tomcat to a robot. That was the idea. So literally what this guy would do is, let's say this is the plane here, it would literally split in half. So the top portion would fold downwards to make this nose cone, and the back of the plane would split across the back here, and he would fold his wings up. which is what they did here. The wings would literally slide down and fold up. Think of an F-14 Tomcat, how the wings can go wide or they can come in. That's the idea of why these wings look like this. They collapse across the back. Again, there is no booster pack that attaches to the back of the Funko Pop, which I think maybe portion a piece of how they can skirt the litigation, possibly because he doesn't have that booster pack. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just happy if Funko doesn't get sued. I'm all for that. The head is very, very interesting as well. It does take homage to Skull Leader and of course Jetfire. There is articulation. The head will spin 360 with no hindrance. If you're asking, can these antennas move like the toy? They cannot. They're stationary. They can't move. But it looks very, very cool. Looks very, very neat. Very happy to have Jetfire in my collection. Great representation of the character of Jetfire. The red and white deco here. The gun pod, which I mentioned before. When you would normally transform him, it would normally swivel underneath him. Because I mentioned it underhooks to the arm. Even wearing the armor here, it would work as well. But you would slide the arms underneath it to have the gun on the belly of the fighter jet. That was the idea here. And he looks very, very good. I'm very happy to add Jetfire to my collection. I just hope there's no big problem with litigation. Now, the other big problem here, or not big problem, but concern is, again, the legs are in that weird splayed positioning here. He does happen to lean to one side. If you take him off the figure stand, he does stand, but he's a little side heavy where he may in fact fall down. If you're curious, there's a single point right here in the leg, and they even have the really cool boosters which the Valkyries or Jetfire had. They're basically legs like they're V's, think of them as V's, and they will expand open for the foot or collapse in to make sort of the engine booster. That was the idea of how these guys' feet look like this. So I'm very, very happy with this representation of Jetfire in Funko form. I think they did a really, really good job. The color's dead on the money here. They have a portion of the armor plates. They don't have, again, the booster. I think either they circumvented the litigation or they couldn't put the booster on to make it substantial, because it might have gotten away the back of the head, because the head is just so big. And one last piece to talk about, which I didn't talk about yet, is the Autobot symbol right here on the portion of the nose cone. So I think Funko did a dynamite representation of course, Jetfire. And with that being said, guys, let's go to final thoughts and wrap up this video. Alright guys, final thoughts on the Pop Retro Series Transformers number 35 Jetfire Pop. Should you pick this guy up for your collection? I always go back to this particular portion of my ending of my videos where, are you a Transformers fan? If you are, then definitely pick up Jetfire here. If this happens to go into a litigation battle with Harmony Gold against Funko, absolutely pick this up because they want to reclaim any damages, just like they did back in 2013 with that special 2-pack, which was G.I. Joe versus Transformers. I can see something going down that particular road, unless somehow Funko circumvented this particular litigation or lawsuit or whatever, acquired the rights for the Jetfire look and feel. Maybe because this is again a non-transformable plane, maybe because they just have it at a different scale, maybe they physically went and asked Harmony Gold, we want to make a Funko Pop, we want to get the rights to this guy. Maybe that's what physically happened. I don't know that answer. I can't come up with a resolution, but I'm hoping they're okay doing this particular character and there's no backlash in the future, because this is a really, really good representation of Jetfire. Harken back to 1985. This representation is dead spot on the money, and I highly recommend picking this guy up. I hope you do like this video presentation of the Retro Toys Jetfire. I hope you give this guy video a like at the bottom of the page, to share it across YouTube's platform so other people can find it. Remember to click the subscribe button at the bottom of the page. When you subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon to be notified of my latest videos. And of course, last but not least, hit Windows over here to watch more of my content. Take care, guys. See you next video, and bye-bye.